My sister's secret relationship. 5 years of lies about a boy. My sister Amy dated Adam for over 5 years and kept their relationship a secret from our parents. Despite pleading for honesty and offering advice, she never listened, leading to tension and unresolved family drama. What happens next? My sister, 30 years old, female, has destroyed our family for a guy, 30 years old, male. To begin, I will provide some context followed by the story. My sister, let's refer to her as Amy, has always been an open, cheerful, and talkative person, but she is also very prone to deception. Being the youngest in the family, she often evaded punishment, even with strict parents. Yes, she went through a phase of telling on me, which was quite frustrating. I frequently found myself in trouble for things I did or did not do. Amy quickly learned that if she reported to our mother first, I would get in trouble without thorough examination. In contrast, when our father came home, he would attempt to understand the situation, and we would typically receive equal punishments. She eventually grew out of her phase of telling on others, but some tendencies have persisted, especially when it helped distract from lies being uncovered or when it shifted attention away from her to avoid trouble. Throughout most of our childhood, Amy benefited from the fact that I had a troubled relationship with our mother. I won't go into detail about that here, as it is not the focus of this post, but we frequently clashed. This tension eased considerably once I went to college and began to understand my mother better, ultimately coming to terms with my feelings and not allowing myself to be swept up in her pace. Overall, our family's experience is quite typical. Our parents adopted us later in life, but they have always loved and supported us unconditionally. We have experienced both good and bad times. If I were to compare how Amy and I grew up, I would say she had a more conventional upbringing, while mine was quite unusual. For instance, I dealt with oppositional behavior disorder, speech delays, and other challenges. Amy always focused on what was popular, striving to gain the approval of others, especially the crowd she perceived as popular. She was preoccupied with her number of friends and went through a boy-crazy phase, which is still ongoing. My concern about being popular paled in comparison to her intense fixation on boys. For example, after Amy received her first phone at age 11, she got one so young because when I received mine at 13, the standard became, "She does not need to wait until 13 because she watched how to use it from you since you're older." I do not believe that allowing Amy to play Snake on my flip phone and almost getting into a fight because she texted my friends pretending to be me counts as teaching her to use it. But I digress. She was caught sexting male classmates in middle school. Although she certainly got into trouble for that, I am not sure how much she truly comprehended what sexting entailed at that age, as Amy often acts and speaks without thinking. And again, she is eager to be popular. Anyway, beginning in high school with her first serious boyfriend, I believe the relationship lasted 1 to 2 years. I am not great with time. She has generally been honest with our parents about whom she is dating. When she went to college, the relationship ended sort of. There were some visits to her campus, a few fights, and then it ended badly with him stating, "I don't think you ever really loved me." During her freshman and sophomore years of college, she had a few dates and boyfriends that did not last as long, but she was open about those relationships as well. Amy's preferred type of guy, though she might use different language, has always been doughy-faced white boys with a blue-collar or country vibe who are seeking a serious relationship. Many, though not all of her boyfriends mentioned marriage at some point. Eye roll, all her boyfriends or dates have been some variation of this. Consequently, many of the issues and deal breakers have been quite similar. I have suggested she consider dating outside her usual type to widen her options a bit. However, Amy is the kind of person who solicits advice, does what she pleases because she believes she knows best, and then returns confused about where she went wrong. It is an infuriating cycle, and I cannot determine if she is oblivious to it or not. Anyway, then there is the guy, let's call him Adam. Amy met Adam during her junior year of college on the dating app Bumble. In case you are unfamiliar with the app, women must reach out first to people they match with. Now we are fairly well off, and as I mentioned, our parents love and support us unconditionally. I also mentioned that Amy is chatty. A lot of her experiences living on campus that she shared with us were negative. People were loud, there was drinking and drugs, her roommate was strange, and so forth. I have no doubt that these negative experiences were real, but that was all she shared. I am sure there were positive aspects as well. Therefore, for Amy's junior year of college, our parents secured an apartment for her off campus. It was a one-bedroom apartment equipped with a washer and dryer, a kitchen, a master bathroom, a half bath, and communal space. She assisted our parents in selecting the apartment and agreed with them not to have friends or dates over. The arrangement was made to help her study without distractions while also providing a safe environment, as our parents were concerned for her well-being after everything she had disclosed. It also allowed our parents to visit some weekends without having to pay for a hotel when she would ask for their help or when Dad would assist her with her studies. Yes, sometimes Mom would call and inquire about visiting. However, their communications varied, and there were instances when my sister said no as well. Now, if she brought friends over, I wasn't going to inform our parents. They are her friends, she is in college, let her have fun. Whatever. Well, Amy and Adam communicated on Bumble for a while, perhaps a month. When she called me to inform me how their first date went, she told me that their initial date took place at her apartment. This stranger, whom she did not know and had not yet met in real life, drove to her residence and they had pizza and watched a movie there. She was alone in her home, and to my knowledge, she had not informed anyone else that she was having a date with a guy there. Naturally, I was upset when she disclosed this. I thought she would have known better. What on earth? That was a recipe for disaster. So many things could go wrong so quickly. She was with a person she did not know, essentially revealing our parents' wealth, her address, and that she was alone. This was the first date she planned, and she thought this was a good idea. Anyway, they continued dating. He seemed like a nice guy. However, Amy did not want me to tell our parents that she was dating him. This was unusual since she had been open thus far. Amy explained that she did not want to tell our parents because he had not attended college, but was working in construction, doing whatever building and welding jobs they required. I think he either had a certificate for welding or learned it on the job and was contemplating certification. My memory from over 5 years ago is hazy. I told Amy that, although our parents might believe she could do better, since she is their daughter and no man would be good enough, they would not disapprove of Adam for that reason since they also came from blue-collar families. Our parents were even the first members of their families to attend college. Nonetheless, she was not prepared to inform them, so fine. I remained silent. Then they reached the 1-year milestone in their relationship. This was the first serious relationship for Amy after her high school romance. I congratulated her, saying something along the lines of, "Hey, 1 year is fantastic. It's getting quite serious. Are you going to introduce each other to your parents?" Amy replied that she was not going to tell our parents. What? I asked. Do you feel as if you two are serious? Amy responded affirmatively. I urged her to tell our parents. Nevertheless, there was always some excuse as to why she could not. She thought they would not like him, believed they would meddle in her relationship and be controlling, and did not want them to be upset with her. I addressed each of her concerns. He seems nice, and you should not give up before you even begin just because you are afraid. They may insist upon offering their advice and suggestions, but that is merely what they are. They do not issue orders, and you can disregard them. They might be a little upset that you lied about him being just a friend, but you just reached a 1-year mark where you could say you were testing the waters. Furthermore, the sooner you tell them, the less angry they will be. The longer you delay it, the worse it will become. Given the title of this post and the fact that I am sharing it here speaks volumes. This was a 5.5-year cycle. No matter what advice I offered or reiterated, nothing changed. Occasionally, when I provided guidance, I would receive responses like, "Well, you have never been in a relationship, so what do you know? You are asking for advice regarding a person. I understand a great deal about people, and I do not need to be in a relationship to provide suggestions." Additionally, I have been in exactly one romantic relationship. It did not last past the casual dating phase, and I ended it because our banter was not sustainable. It was becoming one-sided, and I felt I was verbally abusing him. When I checked in with him, he would say he felt fine and enjoyed it, but a depressed realist, me, and a pessimist, he admitted this, are an ill-fated match. Again, that is another story for another time. Some topics that Amy would discuss or ask me about included whether she should give Adam an ultimatum, so that he would express more public displays of affection, holding hands, saying, "I love you," etc., because he does not currently do so, or whether she should pay for her half of a house they wanted to buy since he could not afford it, etc. My advice regarding those specific instances was that not everyone perceives or expresses public displays of affection in the same manner, and love languages differ from person to person. I suggested they communicate to discover each other's love languages. Additionally, if you are issuing ultimatums, and apparently she had given him ultimatums over minor issues before, but this was the one he was resisting, just end the relationship and move on. At that point, you are creating obstacles where you secretly hope he will fail because you are too frightened to assert, "I don't think this is working." Yes, it is disappointing that it did not work after all the time you invested. However, you learn for the next time and hopefully, it will work out better then. If he cannot afford his half of the house, then either do not buy a house or have him rent from you until he can cover his portion. However, financial disparities like this, especially in heterosexual relationships where the woman earns more, can create significant stress that is akin to a ticking time bomb. It is Adam, whom you have already confirmed has anger issues, who will eventually explode. Moreover, since you have been dating him, I believe it had been 1.5 or 2 years when Amy approached me about the house situation, he has not pursued or acquired any certifications for welding or electrical work. If he wants to coast through life on what he has already secured, fine, that works for some people. However, Adam also obtained a new dog when he and his brother could barely afford rent in their current living situation. You have given him ultimatums before, and the financial gap between you will only continue to widen as your careers progress. Purchasing a house will not conceal the cracks in your relationship or fill the void within you. Since high school, Amy has struggled with compulsive shopping. It reached a point where she had no savings and was living paycheck to paycheck. It improved slightly after Dad had a serious conversation with her, but her shopping impulses remained difficult to manage. For instance, when she had our parents donate clothing from her closet, there were thousands of dollars worth of unworn clothes, still tagged, being donated instead of returned. I did not want to inform our parents about their relationship because, 1, it is Amy's relationship, and it is her responsibility to inform them properly, and 2, I did not want her to use me as an excuse for not telling our parents herself. For 5.5 years, Amy continued to deceive them about the true nature of their involvement. They even met in person, but were unable to form an opinion because Adam does not engage in conversation. Look, I also experience social anxiety, so I understand being nervous, but they met more than 3 times over the 5 years, and these are the parents of the girl you allegedly love. Eventually, you must muster the courage to either initiate conversation or contribute more than 1/2 sentence to keep the dialogue flowing and leave a, hopefully, positive impression. During those 5 years, Amy would mention Adam under the guise of a friend, but only in ways that cast him negatively to our parents. He comes from a divorced family, drinks excessively, has anger issues but is going to therapy, and so forth. When I pointed this out to Amy, she stated that mentioning such details did not portray him negatively. What? Yes, it does. Particularly to our parents, and this was while she spoke about him, and they believed he was just a friend. It is perplexing. There was also an instance at Amy's college graduation when our mother attempted to engage Adam in conversation, and as she struggled to keep it going, she made a comment about the doves nearby, implying they were a good omen that everything would turn out well. Something innocuous like that. Amy later reported to our mother, I think a few days after we returned home, that Adam had told her mother made a peculiar comment about the birds. Once again, this did not reflect well on him, yet Amy attempted to frame it as nothing being wrong. This strange pattern of sharing unflattering details about him with our parents, them pointing out that these could be red flags indicating she should remain merely friends with him, and Amy responding, "But I didn't say anything negative about him," is confusing. It seems to me that as Amy matured, the more she adopted an attitude of, I am an adult, so any choice I make is justified. Moreover, this is a girl who informed me her therapist diagnosed her with high-functioning anxiety and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Explaining why she organizes her belongings in certain ways, and requires various containers for organization. However, she also overpaid her car service bill by thousands of dollars, requiring Dad's assistance to recover her funds. She failed to submit her resignation on time and was terminated from her second job, at which point she had also secured Adam a position. When they would mention Amy being his girlfriend, or at the time of this incident, stating, "Oh, your girlfriend got fired," Adam would respond that she was not his girlfriend. After being dismissed, she neglected to check how long her benefits would last. The enrollment allowed coverage for a period even after termination due to fixed timeframes. When Dad finally urged her to check, she discovered she had no medical insurance. She had been uninsured for several months, and Dad had to assist her in acquiring independent insurance. People make mistakes. That is acceptable, but after her numerous errors, it appeared she did not learn from them. When one both speaks and acts impulsively while also maintaining a mindset of, "I thought rationalized about this, and I am correct," it is a recipe for catastrophe. Approximately 5 years into the relationship, but prior to reaching the 5.5-year mark, Amy and Adam broke up. Following her longest relationship, she was single once again. Great, time for adjustment, self-reflection, reconnecting with friends, and rediscovering old or new hobbies, right? Wrong. Immediately, she threw herself back into the dating scene. A friend of mine and I suggested to her that she should take some time for herself instead. Amy responded by saying something along the lines of, "But they will forget me if I leave the dating pool." I told Amy, "You are a tall, white, blonde woman. No one is forgetting you anytime soon. You just ended your longest relationship. You can afford to be single for a year." Amy replied that she did not need to do that because she and Adam had a mutual breakup and agreed to remain friends. We countered that this was excellent, but she still needed to take some time for herself. At some point, Amy revealed that she and Adam were still texting each other. It had been merely a few weeks since their breakup. She needed to allow that situation to cool before starting to text as friends. That should begin 6 months to a year after breaking up if they genuinely want to be friends. After a few initial dates, she reconnected with someone from college. They had not dated previously, but there had been some chemistry, and she was eager to see if those sparks remained. Fine, whatever. They met up to catch up, and Amy told me afterward that he had been married but was recently divorced because his wife cheated on him. Then she asked, "I still sense those sparks. Should I pursue it?" I advised her to maintain a friendship now that they had reconnected, but I would not jump straight into rekindling those sparks since he was emotionally unsettled due to being cheated on by the woman he thought he would build a life with. He might attempt to fill the void with casual flings, but he was not currently stable enough for a real relationship. I recommended that if she wanted to pursue an actual relationship with him, she should first be his friend and learn more about him. I'm sure he had changed in the years they had not spoken, and they might explore the possibility of resuming their relationship if the sparks were still there and he had achieved emotional stability. But what do I know? They entered a relationship. It lasted for a few months, and they ended it because he felt emotionally unprepared for the seriousness that was developing. After their breakup, he began dating another girl a month later. This surprised Amy. It is exhausting to provide advice to someone who seeks it but refuses to accept it because it is not what they wish to hear. By the way, both Mom and Dad were aware of her dates and this relationship. None of it was a secret. However, what was a secret when she reconciled with Adam following all this? Because he was present and listened as she went through these challenges. What a good friend. Now, before we delve into the story, I promise the context is nearly over. It is essential to mention a key point. As I previously stated, a long time ago, my sister Amy is a cheerful and conversational person. She is also charming, a vital quality for someone who tells lies, and she has always endeared herself to the parents of any partner she has been involved with. This is perfectly normal, especially when both families are aware of the relationship. Adam's family is no exception, of course. During the 5 years they dated, while I encouraged Amy to tell our parents the truth, she often shared how close she had grown to Adam's family and how much they liked her, detailing the family dynamics and the outrageous drama among the divorced parents. One day, Amy told me she had disclosed everything about our mom and dad to them. What do you mean? It turned out his family was also curious about why she had kept their relationship under wraps for so many years. Rather than a simple explanation, she vented about our family troubles, adding some flair to it. They implied that our parents were controlling and would never approve of their darling boy, that they would force her to break up with him, and that she would have no say in her life moving forward. In a considerably paraphrased version of what I expressed to her upon learning this, I said, "Excuse me. First of all, you cannot assume you know what mom and dad would do since you have told them nothing. Secondly, you should not be airing our family grievances to people who will simply affirm whatever you wish to hear to stop their questioning about why you have been too cowardly to tell our parents." Finally, I felt uneasy about her discussing our parents with individuals who do not know them and have never met them, simply because she is a cowardly liar. While I was somewhat nicer when delivering this message, my point was abundantly clear. Story 2. My 23FTM sister, 21F, falsely accused me of molesting her when we were children. How can my family help her? Trigger warning. Mentions of child sexual abuse, mentions of self-harm. I want to begin by stating that I always support victims of sexual assault. I personally was sexually assaulted as a teenager. Before I delve into the main point of this post, I will provide context for why my family and I do not believe my sister. To provide context, my sister has been causing significant stress for me and the rest of our family through her poor choices and manipulative behavior. I must say that our upbringing was challenging, with our parents arguing, being homeschooled and isolated, and being raised in a deeply religious environment. But we never doubted that we were loved and valued by everyone in our family. Despite my transgender and queer identity, I still maintain communication with everyone in my family. Our problems with her began during our teenage years. On multiple occasions, she lied to justify her interactions with older men and fabricated a story about having a boyfriend for 2 years. After I departed for college, the situation escalated and has not settled down since. 2 months after she turned 18, she formed a romantic relationship with a married 35-year-old man. She lied about ending contact with him, and my parents discovered the truth around the time I returned home from Christmas break. As I have done throughout my life, I had to act as a mediator between my sister and our parents. I pleaded with her to stop seeing him. She eventually agreed, but the relationship dynamic between her and our parents has permanently changed. To this day, they fear telling her that she is making unhealthy choices because she gives the silent treatment to anyone who attempts to offer her guidance. She is one of those individuals determined to learn things the hard way over and over again. Evidently, because not even a month later, she began dating a guy whom everyone in her life warned her was trouble. He had a history of scamming elderly people for money, had neither graduated nor obtained his general educational development certificate, and was 21 when they started dating, did not respect women in the workplace, and refused to learn how to drive for reasons I still do not grasp. Fortunately, she ended the relationship in March of last year after she went to trade school and finally realized he would only hold her back. I recognize that her behavioral patterns stem from our not having healthy relationships modeled for us during our childhood. Our father was very controlling and at times emotionally abusive toward our mother, and they were unable to divorce until a couple of years ago. However, I admit I am frustrated that she did not have a single person in her life informing her that dating him was unwise, and she still ended up engaged to him. Things have improved during this past year. She has a wonderful boyfriend and a promising career, enjoying her freedom and independence while still maintaining relationships with our parents and the rest of our family. I am proud of her progress. However, she remains quite resistant to taking responsibility for her actions and displays manipulative tendencies. Of course, it is not her fault that an older married man preyed on her when she was just 18. It is also not her fault that her boyfriend was an awful individual. That is not what I am addressing. Yet, somehow, it is everyone else's fault that she continued to place herself in these situations instead of accepting the help that was consistently offered to her. She embodies the saying, "Do not cut off your nose to spite your face." She refuses to acknowledge that she exhibits poor judgment when it comes to men. Moreover, she has a tendency to pathologize everything she has experienced. When she expressed a desire to move in with her inadequate boyfriend while attending trade school, our mother informed her that she would refuse to send them money. My sister later accused our mother of financial manipulation. Our parents intervened each time she was involved with a man who was too old for her, and she refers to this as traumatic not because she was almost taken advantage of by older men, but because she disapproved of how our parents managed it. She has recently developed the habit of biting her fingernails, which she describes as a tic. She self-harmed once in her life and wishes to get a tattoo representing the colors of the self-harm flag. She has self-diagnosed herself with autism, despite never exhibiting any traits of autism at any point in her life. She speaks of having anorexia yet refuses to seek treatment for it. She claims to experience panic attacks when feeling the slightest bit overwhelmed or anxious. I could continue. I believe she engages in this behavior to evade taking responsibility and to create excuses for not changing her actions to improve her life and mental health. I suspect this is also why her therapist recently discontinued working with her after being in contact since 2021. I genuinely believe she has serious mental health challenges, and this is only reinforced by the focal point of this story, which I will elaborate on shortly. I do not think it is an exaggeration to assert that she makes her trauma and mental health issues a central aspect of her identity because she has not spent any significant time being single and discovering herself since she was 15 or 16. She has spent the majority of her teenage years either involved with a guy, trying to get over a guy, or searching for a guy. She used to engage in hobbies such as drawing, music, and songwriting, but once she started meeting men through her job, she only focused on conversing with them and becoming the most attractive version of herself. To this day, she struggles to befriend or connect with other girls because she concentrated on boys during her formative years, and she still does not know how to prioritize women in her life. This breaks my heart because when my sister and I get along, we have so much fun together, and I want her to share that side of herself with her friends. Neither of us grew up with many friends, but since coming out as queer and attending college, I have formed wonderful friendships. This is one of the reasons my mother and I believe my sister is envious of me. In my sister's perspective, I should not have more approval and acceptance from our parents than she does, as I am the queer, transgender, left-leaning, unfocused child, while she is the devoted Christian, straight girl who has always been very career-oriented. My sister and I are incredibly fortunate to have parents who frequently express how proud they are of us and the individuals we have become. However, my parents prioritize moral character above all else. I believe she is a good person, but she is quite self-centered and manipulative. My parents appreciate that I am kind, empathetic, and truthful. They can openly converse with me. Nonetheless, my family and I must tread carefully around my sister, being mindful with any critique of her romantic choices or inquiries about the conditions she self-diagnoses. We still cannot even make a joke about our dislike for her ex-boyfriend because she will respond passive-aggressively, stating that it has made her life considerably more challenging. In the past, she has blocked me for months following political debates. I had to wait for her to cool down after I asserted that the Trail of Tears was a genocide or that abortion should be legal. I can be quite argumentative and have taken arguments too far, but in recent years, I have improved significantly, prioritizing our relationship over the desire to be right. Both of these conflicts led to me ultimately reconciling and apologizing. She has never apologized for how she treats me, only reaching out when she needs to vent about something our mother did that upset her, without ever inquiring about my well-being or showing interest in my academic progress. She even criticizes my body and how thin I am. Anytime I inadvertently make her slightly upset, she never extends any grace to me, while I have forgiven her for everything she has done to me. Currently, we have returned to not speaking to one another, ever since we had numerous arguments over Thanksgiving break because she voted for Donald Trump, and I was panicking at his victory. I am visiting my parents right now, and during a conversation with my mother, the topic of my sister came up. We were discussing how she seems to accumulate mental health issues that she rarely experiences in order to construct an identity for herself. Every minor negative event from our upbringing becomes trauma in her perspective, and we concurred that this serves as a justification for her behavior toward us. I inquired of my mother whether my sister believes she was ever molested, and my mother affirmed this and asked why I thought so. I reminded her of incidents that occurred a few times when my sister and I were children. I was 8, she was 6, if I recall correctly. We used to act out kissing scenes from movies together. I would do this with other girls our age as well, purely out of curiosity. Once I understood that it was inappropriate for sisters to kiss each other, we never played that game again. I emphasized that it was only kissing. I am now in a position to acknowledge that it was merely a peculiar activity we engaged in as children, and it was never malicious or predatory. It was my idea to initiate the game, and I will take responsibility for that, but she was equally willing. This is not an event that was traumatic by any definition, so I am confident that I recall the details accurately. Occasionally, I still grapple with immense guilt about what transpired, wondering if I am a predator or an abuser, despite knowing this is unfounded. Everything I have written above is precisely what I communicated to my mother. After concluding my explanation, I asked her, "Is that what she meant when she said she thinks she might have been molested?" My mother confirmed this and explained that, after my sister and I argued over Thanksgiving, she FaceTimed my parents to share something with them. Despite my mother's hesitation to disclose this, I pressed her for every detail of the conversation she remembered. My sister stated the words, "I was molested by my brother," to our parents. When they understandably sought additional details, she refused to clarify, claiming it was too traumatic to discuss. As my mother recounted this, I was in tears. She reassured me that both she and my father did not believe for a second that I had molested her. If my sister did not have such a long history of manipulation and deceit, I would not agree with their decision to dismiss her claims. Additionally, I am recognized within my family not just by my parents for possessing a strong moral character. I take responsibility for my actions, sincerely apologize when I hurt my loved ones, and I never, ever lie. My parents intended to avoid bringing this matter up with me because they understood how heartbroken I would be over her lying about me to them. When we discussed this, my mother acknowledged that what occurred was not right, but we were merely children, and it was not malicious. My sister's negative feelings regarding the incident are valid, of course. Our religious upbringing was homophobic, and I believe she has internalized feelings of guilt and self-loathing. Rather than confront her religious beliefs and the impact they have had on her perception of her past, she has chosen to label our childhood behavior as molestation. We discussed this once last year, and I apologized for what had occurred, reminding her that it was simply typical childhood behavior, and neither of us had any reason to feel guilty about it. She stated that she forgave me and harbored no resentment toward me for what happened. I believed we had resolved the issue, but now she has turned around and accused my parents of molestation, refusing to provide any explanation. This indicates to me that she knows it was not molestation, so I am concerned about her motivations for making these claims. Is she envious of the easy relationship I maintain with both our parents because she still does not possess that? Is she attempting to create a divide between my parents and me? Is it possible that she genuinely believes that what transpired constituted molestation, despite the full story and the truth that there is a distinction between curiosity and abuse? Regardless of her reasoning, it is evident that something is troubling her, and we are all concerned. It is not normal for siblings to accuse each other of molestation when that is not what occurred. My parents are disappointed and angry with her, but we are all trying to determine how our father, who is surprisingly the best at communicating with her, can approach her. I do not want my parents to invalidate her feelings or say anything that might alienate her. However, this is the very definition of going too far, and I believe I have justification in wanting my parents to support me. I feel hurt and betrayed, and I cannot foresee reaching out to her anytime soon after this situation. I have been a good sibling to her, and last year was the closest we have been since childhood. I do not deserve this, but I want her to receive help. I love her dearly, and she means the world to me. So, I suppose what I am asking is how we can assist her. Based on all the information presented in this post, why do you think she is behaving in this manner? What are some self-help practices I can implement to cope with this sense of betrayal? As I review this before posting, I notice some background details that might seem inconsistent for the sake of some brevity. Please feel free to ask for clarification on anything. To summarize, my sister, with a history of lying and manipulation, told my parents that I molested her because we kissed when we were children.